Believe it or not, we actually all have something in common in this room, and that is we all use and interact with the internet every single day. When it was first introduced in 1991, the internet changed the way our world worked forever. It brought incredible new industries and connectivity and communication between people like never seen before. Now, especially in recent times, this communication has progressed from just people talking to each other to devices talking to each other as well. And this is called the Internet of Things. I have a very good and accurate picture right here. It was first coined back in the early 2000s, and to put it simply, it is the interconnectivity of devices through the internet. So a really good example is, an Amazon Echo talking to your smartphone, being connected to your thermostat, being connected to your Fitbit, and all these devices are connected and talking to each other, sending data. Now, I've done a lot of research reports on this, and my dad is actually heavily involved, and I think it's a really interesting subject. Now, because it's still in its early stages, I'm going to be discussing some of its current implications, as well as its current usefulness in society. And then I'll be going on to talk about how we're going to see it evolve in the coming future. Now, this is very important because, as I mentioned before, we all use the internet. And this is something that's definitely going to be affecting our lives in the next couple of decades. So, to begin, I'm going to be discussing some current problems with the Internet of Things, one of which being privacy and security surrounding data. Individuals' data has become just as valuable as gold in recent times, and we can see this through the Equifax data breach and Facebook data breaches. Very sensitive information was leaked, such as credit cards, simple names, addresses. And sadly, the Internet of Things is going to contribute to this trend. There's simply so much sensitive information going back and forth that it's really hard to keep track of everything. And a really good example actually comes in the form of your smartwatch or your Fitbit. A very good picture here. This is from a website called Strava, which is a running website. And essentially what this is running activity. Specifically, running activity in the Middle East. This is actually a US military base. Now, a really good example is in a 2018 article from CQ Researcher by Ellen Kennerly. Someone had noticed a lot of heavy running activity on a website similar to Strava, and it actually revealed the movement of US soldiers in the Middle East, Afghanistan, and elsewhere who were wearing fitness trackers. Now, because these Fitbits were connected to phones and these phones were connected to the internet, and the internet distributed this data without knowing it was sensitive, highly secret information was leaked that really anyone could view. Now, another similar problem with this is the Internet of Things is a wild west of laws, so to speak. And with little laws, much of this data can be stored and even gathered by companies. And this has a specific problem when it comes to insurance companies. In the article, The Policy in the Internet of Things by Gustav Lindstrom and Sean Costigan, they essentially talk about how companies can actually gather and store data acquired from Fitbits or smartwatches, so essentially vital signs. Now, this is pretty bad because if an insurance company gets a hold of this and you have bad vital signs, they will either raise your rates or possibly not even insure you. All because these electronic devices are sending information through the internet and it's getting leaked. However, that's not to say the Internet of Things is inherently evil. It can actually provide a lot of benefits for our everyday life, specifically with efficiency. The Internet of Things really is going to make life a lot easier, and it already is, and this comes in the form of something called a smart home. Now, a smart home is essentially a home in which all devices are connected, and the backbone of this connection is the Internet of Things. A really great example comes from a 2017 article called The Internet of Things by Professor John Ritz and Zane Nack. And it essentially describes a day in the life of a smart home. So you begin by, your smart alarm clock waking you up. It gives you information such as weather, traffic, news, etc., which is also sent to your other devices. You go out for a run, your Fitbit or whatever, piece of clothing you have on that tracks your vitals, gives you, calories burnt, mileage, and this is all, again, sent to your devices in your home. And then, throughout the day as you're eating, getting supplies from your cabinet, etc., all these devices are taking note of, expiration dates. Maybe, they need to purchase more, items for you and how much you have left. And this is actually already happening. I have a really good picture here. This is a smart shower, which you can buy. These are all things you're able to buy now. This is a smart fridge in which it can connect to your phone and other devices and tell you expiration dates, if you're running out of food, recipes, really cool stuff. Now, again, the Internet of Things is in its developing stages, but what can we see it look like in the future? Well, the Internet of Things actually has some really advanced stuff to see in the future. And a really good example comes from a research report, Preparing for a Connected World, by Professor Guanhu Li. One thing we can all expect to see is connected vehicles talking to each other. So essentially, autonomous vehicles like Tesla, sending data to each other, traffic, debris in the roads, how to mitigate these problems. We can also expect to see way more advanced smart homes. So from a 2013 article called Big Data and Privacy by Tom Price, there's a really good quote in it. And it is, in the future, your refrigerator should be able to say, I need to pre-cool myself by about 3 degrees. So when the price of electricity goes up in the afternoon, I don't have to run. And it's these tiny little efficiencies that are really going to save the world a lot of money when the Internet of Things comes into full swing. Similarly, there's going to be smart energy. So grids talking to cities, cities talking to grids. If a city's powering down, grids will be able to use less energy instantaneously, saving a lot of money. We're also going to have, connected healthcare. So this goes back to Fitbits and, other vital sign electronics that will be sent directly to doctors just to monitor your vitals. However, we can also expect to see a lot more data breaches and cybersecurity issues in the future. And this has to do with the fact that legislation is really slow when it comes to laws because this is growing very quickly. In the same 2013 article from CQ Researcher, it states that there's going to be evolution and change at such a rapid pace that legislators and regulators can't keep pace. That's a very accurate statement. Now, as I begin to wrap up my speech, I do want to reiterate that the Internet of Things has a lot of potential for making life truly integrated and efficient. Not only are we going to be seeing this on a small scale, but also on a large scale, such as city and nationwide. However, it does have equal potential to cause problems, such as cybersecurity issues and data breaches. But I think this is very important to be knowledgeable about because it really isn't a matter of if the Internet of Things is going to be affecting our lives, but merely a matter of when. Thank you.